name is Roberta Wright-Peters. I'm a chiropractor here in town. And I'm the one who left all pamphlets. I wrote them. Actually, I didn't write them. I reproduced what I have found out. And I'd like to share these things with you tonight. I'm new to the fluoride controversy. Until just a few weeks ago, I didn't even know there was one. Now I'm opposed to it, and I'd like to explain why in about 15 minutes. I haven't had the benefit of training to explain the opposing viewpoint, nor have I had the support of billion-dollar industries or alphabet soup agencies that tell me what to say. All I have is what I have read and discovered on my own in just the last few weeks. Like most people I know, I've spent my whole life believing that fluoride was good for you. I believed all the propaganda, and I believed and trusted all the dentists I've seen through the years. So why am I here speaking out against it? Because I'm upset? I'm actually angry. I think I've been hoodwinked, and I don't appreciate it. I've had fluoride all of my life. I've grown up in fluoridated areas, and I've had all the fluoride treatments at the dentist's office, and I've done all the fluoride stuff because my mom made sure we kids got in on all that. So why have I had so many cavities? What good did it do me? One day last month, I heard words I'd never heard before, and that is that fluoride is a poison. That got my attention. But instead of instantly dismissing it as not possible, I decided I better check it out. Why would anyone say such a thing? Very early in my research, I discovered that it probably would not be useful to ask a dentist about it. After all, it was dentists who'd been telling me all my life how much I need it. Didn't do me any good, but they said I needed it, so I believed them. Well, why wouldn't a dentist of all people be able to explain the risks of fluoride? Wouldn't they know them? What I found out surprised me, and that is, they probably don't. They've been led down the same rosy path as the rest of us. For those of them who do know, they know better than to speak out, at least in public. They know it is risky to admit anything bad about fluoride. You see, they're required by their profession, or their professional association, the ADA, to promote fluoride. Those who speak out against it are punished, either through loss of membership in the organization or loss of their professional standing. Those with high-ranking jobs with the state or public health service or professional organization, they know better than to speak out too. They'll lose their jobs. And I can name some people. I can give you all the references. It's a political thing, actually, a money thing, and an image thing. After all, if they admitted now that they've been wrong all these years, just think of all the lawsuits and the embarrassment. Not to mention the loss of millions or billions of dollars from industries that have supported this or backed it. Indeed, we, the consumers, pay a high price not to hurt their feelings. On a local level, I'm afraid the average dentist maybe is unaware of the dark side of the story as we are. That fluoride is a poison, that it doesn't do what they say it does, or even what they think it does. In the early days, before this became a dental issue, fluoride was sold simply as a rat or roach poison. Now, I've done a lot of reading, and I've checked these things out as much as possible in just a few weeks. But as I said, this is all new to me. Some of the information I checked did indeed lead to dead ends, such as natural versus artificial, calcium versus sodium fluoride. Doesn't make a difference. It's all toxic. The fact that I checked this and followed it to its logical conclusion should show not that I'm embracing incorrect ideas, but I'm trying to be thorough. Some of the arguments I've heard have led, admittedly, nowhere. Others have been found to be valid. I can probably come up with 500 studies to show you. What indeed is the purpose of research if not to get at the truth of a matter? The purpose of research is not to find the best ways to manufacture a prearranged outcome, but that's what the fluoride promoters have done. Should I be reading just one side of the story here? Goodness, I've had only one side of the story all these years. I think it's healthy to investigate all sides of the issue. Now that I've done some research on my own or more accurately, since I'm not a scientist, I've done a search of the literature. I'd like to tell you some things I found out. When I'm through, don't take my word for it. Look it up for yourselves. I have some copies of the list of references that I've used. Leave them there too. For those of you who wish to be comforted and reassured that the poison idea is all a hoax, that it's still okay, then fine, don't listen to this. Go and check it out. If fluoride is what you want, fine, use it. I don't care. But don't force it on me or everybody else that doesn't want it. We should have the right to say no. Now, I've compiled a list of references, which, like I said, will be out there. Some of these things come from the files of the United States Public Health Service itself. Other findings are from various scientific and professional journals that report the results of work done by scientists. These are journals you won't find at the newsstand or at the library. These are publications used by scientists and doctors to tell each other what they've discovered. If it's politically correct, then we get to hear about it. But if it's not, it gets put on the shelf. Or, occasionally it's rewritten, or lost, or fixed up so it says what they want it to say. And if the author doesn't play ball with the system, he or she may find themselves out of a job too, or have research grants canceled. We named people there too. One just happened a few months ago. Dr. Phyllis Mullinex, she lost her job 4 or 5 months ago. You won't read about it or hear about it. She just did a study. She's a scientist. I can't tell you the agency because I didn't write it down. But I can get it. I know who to call. She found out that fluoride is more toxic than lead and is more responsible for lowering the IQ of children than lead ever was. Now, if you believe this stuff only happens in the movies, then maybe you're living in a fantasy world. I've personally met and talked with people that this has happened to. Okay, this is one of the books I've been reading. The people in the dental profession probably have heard of Dr. Yamianis. He's considered poison on your side of it now, too, because years ago, he was a biochemical editor for Chemical Abstract Service, the world's largest chemical information center. And when he saw the studies coming in on fluoride back in the 60s, his conscience wouldn't let him keep quiet about it. He believed the people had a right to know they were being poisoned. But his bosses and their bosses didn't agree. The company stood to lose millions of dollars if people found out. After ignoring all the threats to shut up, he finally was fired. He went on to become science director for the National Health Federation. And then he wrote this book. He wrote the first book in 1983. This is the 1993 edition. It's called Fluoride, the Aging Factor. Right now he's president of the Safe Water Foundation in Ohio. This book is extremely well researched. Dr. Yamianis is a scientist. When he was working on the other side, so to speak, the Public Health Service used to hire him to do studies, and as long as things came out the way they wanted to hear it, they trusted him, respected him, quoted him, and then when he left and went to the other side, now he's discredited as a whatever. Well, in order to get some of the studies to use in that book, we had to use the Freedom of Information Act, because if you didn't get them any other way, they wouldn't release them to him. What a lot of people don't know is that many kinds of information, not just this, isn't easy to get. You may think it's public information, and you'd be right, it is. But if you think you can just write or call to get it, you're in for an education. Just try it. They don't want you to know something. They use put-off tactics. It could take years or never to get the information you want unless you know how to use the Freedom of Information Act. It's a lawsuit procedure. That's what Dr. Yamianis did, so he could bring this book up to date, or even to get it out in the first place. Here's some more I found out. Fluoride accumulates in your body. Fluoridationists might talk about achieving this so-called steady state where what you take in roughly equals the amount you excrete so that you always have the optimum amount in your body. Well, with fluoride, how do you know what the optimum amount is for everybody? Everybody's different. How can you give the same amount of anything to everyone without regard to their size, age, weight, nutritional status, or general health status. How do they know what anybody's particular steady state or whatever is? The thing is, they don't, because it's arbitrary. Somebody back in the 30s, just off the cuff, I think it was Dr. Gerald Carr, decided that 1 part per million had to be the optimum amount, and they've stuck with that ever since. Well, if this stuff accumulates in the body, and it does so more and more as we age, where does it go? To the teeth? What if you don't have any teeth? Then where does it go? I'll tell you, it goes to your bones, also goes to your organs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, thyroid, brain. I made a chart here based on some figures I got out of the book. The first column shows the tissue levels in the organs I just mentioned back in 1939, before places were routinely fluoridated. Only places that had natural fluoridation had any. And then the second column shows how much fluoride was found in the organs of these people after autopsy between 1960 and 65. I'll hang this up on the board here and show you. It's pretty obvious, you don't have to see this. And this is before fluoride, that's after fluoride. Well, it goes to the teeth if you have any, but actually it only goes in any significant amount to children's teeth, teeth that are in the formation stages. That means this stuff is basically for kids. As we've already heard, it doesn't absorb to any significant amount in permanent teeth or through the surface. So the focus is on kids here, clearly. It doesn't really prevent tooth decay. Perhaps in some cases, but not to the enormous extent claimed. Surely didn't do anything for me. Let me show you another chart. This is Grand Rapids, Michigan, back in 1945 to 1950. So let me get that over. Back in 1945, before Grand Rapids was fluoridated, they did a little epidemiological study here and found, I just picked out 4 age groups. They did ages 5 through 17. I just picked out 5, 10, 12, 14, and 16. This is how many cavities they had before it was fluoridated, and this is what it looked like 5 years later after they added fluoride to the water. It dropped. See, I have another chart here. You see, when they added fluoride to Grand Rapids, they decided to make a test. They decided to compare it to Muskegon, which would not be fluoridated. They were going to wait for 10 years and then make a comparison. After 5 years, they gave up on that and they fluoridated Muskegon anyway. I'll show you why. This is the number of cavities before it was fluoridated. This is the number of cavities while they still weren't fluoridated. 5 years later, it went down too. I don't know. Maybe they were paying more attention to their teeth. Maybe they brushed more. I don't know. But because it wasn't the big drop they expected, or the big difference between the two cities, they gave up and went ahead and fluoridated Muskegon and just quoted the Grand Rapids study. These statistics are from the U.S. Public Health Service. That's their famous first 5 years comparison between the two cities, which is, as I said, supposed to be a 10-year test. There have been many other studies done with similar results, not only in the U.S., but around the world in other countries. But many of those other countries, based on those results like this, ban fluoride. It's not as universally used as we all thought. Sweden, Japan, most of Europe, parts of New Zealand, and Canada isn't as enthusiastic about it anymore either. Here's a New Zealand study. You can see the numbers from up there, but basically what it shows is that one city here in New Zealand was fluoridated, and the rest, or was not fluoridated, and the rest of them were. The average, did I put these in your packet? Okay. The average was about 3 teeth per child that was decayed, missing, filled, or whatever they call that, DMS3. It was about the same. There really wasn't any difference. So Okay, let's get back to the accumulation thing. Is there any harm in that? After all, fluoride is being prescribed for osteoporosis now. Have you ever heard of the Merck manual? This is what the Merck manual looks like, so that when you go to the library, you know what you're looking for, because I want you to look this up. This book comes out about every 12 years by the Merck Company, which is a major pharmaceutical company. This is an old one, but they all look alike, so. The latest one is 1992, and it's on the reference shelf at the library. Here's what it says on page 1359, that's 1359 of the Merck manual. It says, for osteoporosis, combined therapy with sodium fluoride at 50 milligrams a day with at least 1 gram of calcium appears to increase bone mass. But the bone is abnormal and more fragile. Thus, fluoride is currently not recommended. Another argument used for fluoridating is that fluoride occurs naturally in all water supplies, but that it's too low in some areas. Yes, it occurs naturally in many water supplies, but not all of them. We do have it here. But the inference is that if it's too low, the community will be plagued with dental decay with resultant pain and suffering. What about the Otomi Indians, Bedouins of Israel, and the Nigerian tribes that were studied back in the 50s and 60s when they were going all over the world trying to figure out all the good things about this? Those were primitive societies at that time, in areas with little to no fluoridation at all, and yet 80 to 90% of those people had no decay at any age. Why? It wasn't because of fluoride not being there. It was because they don't, or did, they probably do now, but they didn't at that time eat the way we do. We eat a Western diet with sugar, refined carbohydrates, and all that stuff, and they ate a more natural diet. And I think that probably plays a larger part in dental health than fluoride. Another claim is that it's an essential nutrient, and that's just plain hogwash. Again, in the Merck manual, on page 976, look this up, under fluorine, under the nutritional and metabolic disorders category. It says fluorine is not strictly an essential element, in that a deficiency state has not been induced. Excess accumulation of fluoride can occur in teeth and bone in proportion to the level and duration of intake. So the more you take, the more it shows up in there. I also have a quote out of Guyton's medical physiology book, textbook of medical physiology by Arthur C. Guyton. This is a standard medical physiology textbook that's used in medical school, also chiropractic school. Heavily. On page, well, it didn't show on here, I didn't get it copied right. Under fluorine, it says, fluorine does not seem to be a necessary element for metabolism, but the presence of a small quantity of fluorine in the body during the period of tooth formation helps protect against carious teeth. Okay, that. Fluorine does not make the teeth themselves stronger, but instead seems to block the action of bacterial enzymes that cause caries or cavities. It is believed that fluorine in the teeth combines with various trace metals that are necessary for activation of certain enzymes, and because these enzymes are deprived of the trace metals, they remain inactive and thus cause no cavities. Excessive fluorine can cause what's called fluorosis, or mottling of the teeth, and enlarged bones in a more severe state. It has been postulated that because fluorine combines with the trace metals in some metabolic enzymes, various metabolic systems then become partially inactivated. Mottled teeth and enlarged bones are due to abnormal enzyme systems in the odontoblasts and osteoblasts. These are the cells that form teeth and bones. Even though mottled teeth are highly resistant to the development of cavities, the structural strength of these teeth is considerably lessened by the mottling process. Maybe that's why mine are chipping away. Okay, now I've come up with a list of 12 reasons not to fluoridate. Number one, we already have some here. Number two, it's already available in many ways: toothpaste, mouthwash, dental treatments, school lunch programs, supplements, also in the food we eat. Now, if you're worried about it just being a topical thing, and you'd rather ingest it, we've already heard that certain foods and beverages contain high levels of fluoride, so why don't we just eat and drink more of that stuff? Foods grown in fluoridated areas, soda pops and mineral water bottled in fluoridated areas. That's another thing. On bottled water, you think you can just go to the store and buy a bottle of spring water and you think there's no fluoride in it? You better check. Find out where it's bottled. It doesn't say on the bottle that it has fluoride in it, but the fluoride. Or you call the company or find out what community it's bottled in. Well, there's some stuff at Safeway, just we run it out of the tap at Oshkosh and call it spring water. I already found that out. And it's got fluoride in it. So these are things you need to check. Fruit juices made from a concentrate, reconstituted with fluoridated water, so they have fluoride in it, and foods that are grown with fluoride in the fertilizer or fluoridated water from irrigation is going to have fluoride taken up in the plant. Tea and fish have unusually high levels of fluoride in them anyway. You can take a little old tea bag and put it in a cup of distilled water and brew it, and you'll have a high fluoride drink. Fluoride, okay, number three, fluoridating the water forces everyone to have fluoride even if they don't want it. Number four, as noted, no proof that it prevents cavities. Sure didn't for me. Adult teeth that have soaked up fluoride for years and years are more brittle and chip easily, as I know from guidance physiology. As already mentioned, number five, treating osteoporosis with fluoride may harden the bones, but it's brittle, and then you end up with this higher hip rate fracture in areas where fluoridation is used. Number six, at 1 part per million, that's 1 milligram per liter, which is a little less than a quart. It is assumed that a person will drink about 4 glasses of water in order to get a whole milligram of fluoride in them. Well, I know some adults that might drink that much, but how many kids do? Most kids can hardly get them to drink 1 glass of water, let alone 4. And I thought it was for them primarily. Actually, they get more fluoride in the pops they drink. Many pops, notably Coke Classic and Diet Coke, which is bottled in Chicago, has extremely high fluoride, which 2.56 parts per million. So if they drink 3 cans of pop, they're going to get more than 2 milligrams of fluoride in 1 day. Add to that what they get in the toothpaste, what they get at school, what they get at the dentist, what any amounts in the food, bottled water, and you can easily get 5 milligrams a day. And I'm not counting the water. As a side note, did you know that it only takes 1/100 of an ounce of fluoride to kill a small child? That's 243 milligrams. Yeah, that's a lot. Not likely that anybody would ingest that much in 1 day unless they ate a whole tube of toothpaste or swallowed some supplements that they might have at home, or if they swallow instead of spit after a fluoride treatment. There's a very sad story in here about a 3-year-old child who swallowed instead of spat after a fluoride treatment, and he died within 5 hours. The literature for fluoride likes to quote much larger amounts as toxic or deadly, but the truth is those lowers our level than they would have us believe. Number 7, some people are more sensitive to fluoride than others. For instance, people at risk include those with kidney damage, thyroid problems, diabetes, and anyone who is malnourished or undernourished or in poor general health. Number 8, fluoridation puts the city in the position of dispensing of drugs without a license. Number 9, it's impossible to regulate a proper dosage for every citizen. What if the system happened to give someone at risk a little too much? Would it be a burden on those who don't want it to have to spend $3,000 for a reverse osmosis unit at home? Or to buy bottled water? Number 10, fluoride corrodes pipes. We just put in a new system. Do we want to replace it very soon? Now, I'm glad to hear that the equipment has improved through the years, but I don't know if people who are installing these things want to come into every home and put new stuff in our homes for us. This stuff is terrible on hot water tanks and whatever you have on your pipes at home. The going to raise the cost to the consumer at home. Number 12 is a lot of it gets wasted. Why put in tons and tons of fluoride into a system when a lot of it just goes watered out onto the lawn, washes the cars, does your laundry, you bathe in it. Where did I put that? Well, I don't know where I put it, but anyway, somebody estimated that only out of $100,000 worth of fluoride, about $85 worth of it gets used by children. Well, I think all the risk factors outweigh the supposed benefits. Now, this all leads me to a much bigger question. Why would anybody want us to take poison? I think it's important for people to be aware of the motivation behind the fluoride issue. Fluoride promoters say they can't understand why anyone would be opposed to something with proven benefits to the dental health of everyone in the community, and why would we want to deny these benefits to the children? Well, it's not a proven benefit. So let's set that aside for the moment and ask really the more important question. What's the real reason behind all this? I don't see doctors from other disciplines forcing us to take vitamins or putting calcium in the water to fight osteoporosis or making us eat our vegetables. So what's the real reason behind this enormous push to fluoridate? What's more special about fluoride than any other substance? Try this on for size. What if you had a multi-billion-dollar industry that produced over 500,000 tons of poisonous waste byproducts every year that you had to get rid of? According to the National Society of Sciences, certain industries pump over 100,000 tons of fluoride into the atmosphere every year, and another 500,000 tons gets dumped into the water. To keep us from complaining about that, they found a way to make us think it's good for us, and then we have to pay for it. Besides, these industries include primarily aluminum manufacturing and secondarily fertilizer production. If you ever drive through Florida, you'll see a number of phosphate mining operations. We go down there every year for Christmas, and we can buy them and go, oh, hey, that's cool. They're part of the fertilizer industry. If you care to read anything about it, you will find that people living in these areas around those plants have health problems that are far more prevalent than in other locations, including cancer. Oh, and you should see the cattle. The average cow has to be slaughtered at the age of 3. Number 1, because their teeth have crumbled away and they can't eat, and number 2, because the cows cannot sustain a pregnancy. The hooves grow improperly, and they can no longer walk. Any rancher who complains loses their lease on the land. Yeah, it's a lease. They don't own that land because back in the 50s or 40s, whenever this all began with the fertilizer industries and phosphate mining down there, it was a big problem and a lot of complaints. And so the plants just bought up the land all the way around, and now they lease it out. And anybody who complains loses their lease. That's all I do. Well, in conclusion, I'd like to tell you, if you want any information or any of these materials or references cited, if you want to look them up, I have lists. I'm going to lay more stuff over there if you want to pick it up. If you want to call me with any questions, I don't know if I can answer them. This is still very new to me, but I bet I can find someone who knows the answers.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition?